Interestingly enough, my sister used to use it on me when we were kids. So we was, we ready, John? All right, I would like to call this meeting to order. Welcome all. Dave, good to see you, sir. Thompson, you folks,
Benjamin Antler.
and Dora. Okay, very good. We'll talk. Yep. Okay. Sir,
Mike with Washington County.
oh, very good. Thank you for attending. Okay. To call this meeting to order, are there any announcements? John, is anybody with us electronically this evening?
Mr. President, Inspector Brower is attending remotely because he's not feeling the best. And Robbie Latta with the church permit and variance request is on.
Oh, the variance number 2. Very good. Welcome all.
Thank
So,
you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Is that?
Loud and clear. Hi, Jeff.
Mr. President, they are updating the AV system in here tonight, so I'm not able to show anything on the screen.
So we had like Dolby stereo.
They're working on it, I think.
Okay, yeah, it sounds better. Okay. Not hearing any, I would like to make a motion to approve the agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded.
Aye.
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 It is approved. Public forum. Anybody wishing to speak? We've already met folks and we'll get to that. And of course, we'll speak with Ms. Thompson soon and anybody else if you have anything. So with that said, and not hearing anything from our electronic visitors, I would like to move to the consent calendar. Does anybody have any items that they wish to keep aside? Yes, sir.
Item D, please, permit 2025-12.
Okay,
Just for a brief discussion.
very good. So would you like to make a motion?
Sure, I will move approval of the consent calendar with item D removed.
Okay, very good, sir. I will second that motion.
Aye.
All right,
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. Okay, let's go directly to item B. $500 native plant grant to Chris Hansen.
I'm sorry, item D.
Mhm.
Oh,
That's what I heard you say.
Arm's hearing it.
I might need it. Just got that Dolby thing. Okay, shall I rescind my, we're okay?
She recorded this D, so this will go.
Did you? Good. Boy, I'm glad you're listening. Okay. Go ahead. Item.
So I'm just curious about this, given the fact that we put a fair bit into it. Erosion in the fall of the Valley Creek. And I can say that this is on an intermittent stream. Just that asking that would be extra diligent on the project to make sure that it's done correctly. And also, this probably is, I'm guessing, a lot simpler than that big bike trail north of it. So probably not a big deal, but I just wanted to ask that we're sure that we're diligent on what we do with this one. So
Mr. President, Vice President Piera, Inspector Brower did meet with the contractor on the site and walk the site, determine maybe the best area to have this trail that would limit erosion. And the contractor seems very willing to work with Jeff if some situation changes during construction.
and what's the topography like there? Is it steep or?
It's very steep
Okay,
going down to the ravine, and then it's clay with sand in the bottom of the ravine, and then it's steep again as you go to the east.
okay. Okay. Good, that's all I had. And I will go ahead and move. Approval of 2025-12. So,
I will second that motion.
aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. That is approved. Move on to our next item. Updates and requests from partner volunteers, advisory committee. Okay. Business and reports. Administrative engineer. The cost share programs. How do we handle this?
Yeah, Mr. President, managers, I prepared a memo. It made it in the electronic version of the packet, but it didn't get in the paper version of the packet, so I distributed that. If you recall, the last several meetings, Alyssa Thompson at Washington Conservation District, the Watershed District's ENP cost share program administrator, has provided an update on the program and given some suggestions for the managers to consider. One of those being adding a shoreline grant. And so Ms. Thompson has drafted a shoreline grant policy with my input on, based on the discussion the managers have had and what's in the current 10-year plan as far as priority water bodies. And so that's was included in your packet, and Ms. Thompson and I would like to hear your thoughts on that program. And then she also updated the policies for the other grant programs that the Watershed District currently has without making any revisions as far as the reimbursement policy or anything like that, other than the only revisions are how to contact Washington Conservation District to meet on site and apply for the grant.
Any of the managers have anything they'd like to, we're on the first one, the shoreline restoration cost share policy. This is for specifically.
I have a comment
Same.
that applies to all four of them.
Yep.
And that is, being the representative from Ramsey County, I would be amiss if I didn't mention that there's no mention of Ramsey County in this. And since this is a Valley Branch Watershed District policy that we're approving, I think that we need to be considering the Ramsey County portion of it. I think that will also make it easier for people that are interested in applying from Ramsey County to be able to do that as well. So contact information, I didn't have, concerns about, changing the procedures or anything, but I'm sure Ramsey County would want to see it. Yeah, so I guess that's the main thing, is to include Ramsey County as well.
So we're good there. There's no discrepancy or anything. Pardon? Regarding Ramsey County's being informed that this includes them as well.
Sorry. Well, it's not in here, so I think it needs to be added. Other than that,
So we can record that, John.
Yes, Mr. President, managers. So I think, for example, in the shoreline restoration cost share policy on page 2, near lines 19 through 23, can add in Ramsey County and can work with Alyssa. I don't know what's the most efficient way. If everybody contacts Alyssa and then Alyssa forwards the information to Ramsey County, because there is such a small area of Ramsey County in there, or if they should contact Ramsey County directly. So we can work with Alyssa on that.
Yeah, I did kind of reach out to Ramsey County. I wasn't able to talk to him directly, but the comment I got from him was that it's been several years since he's had any requests from Ramsey County. So I'll follow up and talk to him at some point here.
Kind of quiet there, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think there's opportunities to, improve shoreline
Oh, without a doubt.
on the lake and.
Well, we have done some riprap work at the north side.
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Brock, did you have something?
I just want to say, the shoreline one, I reviewed that quite carefully, and I felt like it captured our discussions from the previous meeting, and I'm in favor of it. I thought it looked good.
Okay. Yeah, they all look good. They're pretty. Earl, the only thing I had on the first one was just if I'm correct, on line 21, first page, geese droppings should be goose dropping.
Oh, sure.
I'm silly like that. And then Yes, sir, go ahead. I have other.
On eligibility criteria,
Right.
we call out Raleigh Creek and Valley Creek. What about other villages? Why are those two? It's special notice on this, or am I missing something?
Those were the prioritized water bodies. All water bodies will be eligible, but those are the ones that are prioritized for the plans that would be eligible for 75% cost share rather than 50.
That makes sense, thank you.
And John brought that up, Mr. Engineer, pre-meeting regarding the 75%. A monetary cap on that amount. We can, you can discuss that with Ms. Johnson or.
Yeah, Mr. President, managers, on page 2.
Yeah.
Lines 5 and 6 talk about for all water bodies, what the current suggestion is for the managers to consider be 50% of the total project cost up to $10,000. But then for the high priority water bodies on line 11, it currently just says up to 75% of the total project cost. And so I suspect the managers would also want a cost cap on that of a certain amount, whether it's $10,000 or more, but I would guess that you'd want a cost cap.
Right, and could either discuss that or have it redrawn and then we can give you direction on that, unless we have to take a vote on that amount in the future.
Mr. President, I think eventually the
Yeah.
board should, if the managers like what they see and approve it, I think it should be done with a motion.
Okay. This evening?
If you like what you see tonight.
Yeah, we like what we see. I just want to know if managers want to hash out this $10,000 or more.
My suggestion,
Yes, sir.
I think it's consistent with what John said, and I think for the priority water bodies on a case-by-case basis, as projects came up, we would consider what a reasonable maximum should be for that specific project.
Okay, I like that. Yeah, that's a good idea. A
That
case
gives,
by case basis and we can make a determination.
that gives us more flexibility. I mean, if it's a humdinger project and we really want to see it happen, we'll go ahead and try to provide proper funds that increase the odds that it happens.
We want to put it in as $10,000, or if it's above that amount, then we would consider it.
That sounds reasonable.
That way, we
10%.
keep from adding to the agenda here. Needlessly.
So a $10,000 max, unless the board considers more would be.
Unless there's a request for additional.
Unless it's an exceptional resource enhancement project.
It's going to be one heck of a motion.
Yeah, from an educational perspective,
Yes, sir.
is there a way that we can attach something that if we are doing funding, especially if it's up to 75%, that the watershed district, there's some signage or something that says
Exactly what I
funded under a grant?
Yep, president, managers, we talked about this a little bit last time too, developing like a Valley Branch cost share sign with a little bit about the cost share projects and a QR code that would bring them to a website. Our graphic designer is currently working on that for you all to
okay.
review.
These are long lasting, laminates, whatever,
Yeah,
that sort of
Yeah.
thing. Oh, good.
Mhm.
No, we want that. Yeah, and we're paying for it anyway, right? Yes.
yes, I guess.
Yeah, okay. All right. I did have some, I think they have more to do with semantics than anything else, but at this point, I think it doesn't matter. I don't want to make a big deal out of it. My only concern was how close to water when we have projects directly adjacent to water.
Typically, it, the other cost share programs will cost share within 50 to 100 foot of the
Okay.
water body. We could put that more specific detail in here, but
Could we do that? Could we
Yep.
specify a little better? That's a concern.
um,
Yes, sir.
Mr. President, managers, I guess I was thinking it needed to be at basically the water's edge, going upward from the water's edge.
Up to the water's edge. Okay.
yeah, so some of the other programs, it would be water's edge, and then they would cover either a 50-foot buffer or a 100-foot buffer. But it would still have to be adjacent to the water body itself. And if the landowner decided to go beyond that, like 150 feet, that section wouldn't be covered.
That sounds more reasonable because that's what we're trying to protect. And that's very important to us, so. But it doesn't necessarily have to be that if they're, I don't know if there's a roadway or anything else that would prevent them from doing something there. Not an issue.
If they don't foresee an issue, I'm not sure.
A trail.
Mr. President Manager, so when a permit applicant comes in and we look at the site and compare it to the Valley Branch Watershed District rules, if there is a road or something, some existing obstacle that prevents them from creating the buffer that they should create in order to meet the Valley Branch rules, we kind of work to determine is it feasible to create the buffer or not based on that obstacle.
So it's clear enough to everybody. We don't have to include that little detail, right? Okay. And then I think I have something on my rain gardens. You gentlemen have anything else?
I've got, well, one item is just looks like a typo on the native plant grant, cost share, bottom line, first page. Landowner must keep the practice must be in place. I think just take out the must be.
Good, Rick.
And then I think part of the discussion last time was talking about, well, it'd be nice to somehow evaluate, you know, how effective our programs are being. I don't think that belongs in the policy here, but I think it's worthwhile having kind of some defined ways in which we're going to, you know, look at that, you know, okay, yeah, you know, the addition of the, you know, the summary that you're including talks about kind of the facts part of it, but I think what I want to do is tap some of your expertise, your staff's expertise about, you know, what they see as being areas where it's been particularly effective. Or, you know, and I'm not sure exactly what that looks like. It's kind of open-ended and, you know, in some ways on purpose in terms of, you know, let's look at the projects that we've got and, you know, see where we're really impacting the resource. And can we
Like
focus
some
on,
obtaining data, something indicates how progress is. So I don't know how much of a burden that is financially and in terms of labor, or what might have to be included if we're on the same page with this, about understanding where we're going with it. Like, okay, so we did that rain garden years ago, and here's what it is now, you know. So
I'm
mosquito
thinking-
station or something.
yeah, I'm thinking it might be something like, you know, oh, you know, one particular lake, you know, we've had success with, you know, one or two shoreline owners. And there seems to be a potential for many other properties to, you know, to also look at making some changes to what they're doing. And, you know, the people that are in the field are seeing that on a daily basis or, you know,
Right.
reacting to it. And it'd be nice to capture that. You know, it's like, boy, if we could only do whatever it is,
That's a good point.
that way we can kind of have a little more,
It's extremely educational too.
more benefit out of it. Does that make some sense?
I think so. So would it be beneficial in the end of year summary to show more of the habitat corridors of where projects are being put in place?
I think that's a start. It's also kind of analysis from you and your staff saying, you know, oh, these particular areas, people are real enthusiastic, or whatever you're seeing in the field that doesn't necessarily end up in the reports, but something that says, you know, here's an opportunity that we might want to somehow take advantage of and give priority to, or something like that. You know, that is a little beyond what, you know, what we're talking
It's a
about.
good idea. I think we
you know,
need it, yeah.
So it might be a matter of, you know, a couple of paragraphs that says, you know, here's kind of the impression that we had. It doesn't necessarily have to be, you know, super fact-based. It can be,
Qualitative.
these are the impressions that we have, or this is backed up by fact, but it's also, you know, it seems like there might be an opportunity here, or to, you know, to answer questions along that line.
Okay, so, more of like general interest geographically? And,
Yeah, it might be
okay,
who the people are that are applying, you know,
Okay.
it might be on which lake they're on, or I'm not in the field, so I'm not always sure what else, you know, what it might be. But,
okay,
you know, there may be something that people notice that doesn't end up in the reports.
okay,
Sort of like, I don't know, if data mining is a good phrase. But certainly adding the information so that we essentially knows we can take on something.
Mhm.
And look at the outcome or its history.
So keep the information flow going
Yeah.
between what you all are doing in the field and what we're doing here. And to be able to coordinate that.
okay.
Okay,
Um,
not too much. It's not too much trouble, right?
It's not, I just want to make sure that I'm
Okay.
getting the information that you're looking for. And then
Yeah.
how often?
You know, I don't know, I think probably annually is probably something that would fit it. It'd be maybe just one more heading when you're kind of summarizing
So-
what happened this year.
I was thinking that, sort of like what, Mr. Brower, I know you're with us. What he does with his, inspection report. That there's an element,
Yeah.
you know, it doesn't have to be long, but an explanation of, how progress is or what the status is. And again, that could be based on priorities, you know, we're not gonna go through every little item out there that we're working on,
Yeah.
but the ones that are most important, and then you
Okay, so my,
categorize.
my coworker Cameron is in charge of like the maintenance and inspection piece for Valley Branch. So maybe it would be worthwhile to bring him into the conversation to make sure that he is
course.
evaluating the projects based on the criteria you want, and then maybe he can help put together.
That's it, and it's not a big burden, I don't think, you know.
It's something he's doing already, but maybe we just want to look at how he's evaluating the projects to make sure you're getting the data that you want. And then I can add some more of the, these people in this area were interested in these types of projects this last year, and
Mhm.
that sort of information.
Yeah. Opportunities or whatever. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Jeff. I heard you.
You're welcome.
All asleep. Okay, so with that said, if you or gentlemen don't have anything else, we have to make a motion on this? Okay, sir. Kind of a tough one. So, Counselor, you can chime in anytime you like. I'm gonna take a stab at this and suggest or to make a motion that we adopt these cost share policy drafts with the modifications we've made and with the introduction of added, data. That doesn't sound too vague.
Yep, I think I have them all written down.
Right, in addition to what, our engineer added about the, monetary cap.
Mhm.
You know, and then it's up to our discretion to decide whether something might need more resources.
Yep.
Very good.
I'll second that convoluted motion.
Here's,
Oh my goodness.
just before you vote, here's
Yeah,
what I
yeah.
have. Move to adopt the cost share policy drafts with modifications stated during meeting and additional data that was requested to be added by managers during discussion. Does that equally meet your convoluted?
That's why you're here.
Should it be tweaked? Is there clarification that anybody wants?
Maybe rather than just data, add analysis and opportunities.
Right. Good.
Okay, but those aren't going in these drafts. That's a separate thing.
Right.
Oh,
Yes.
yes, that's right. That's right.
Yes, sir.
I'll just suggest the process change that this isn't real-time critical, so we could table the motion and have the revisions back to us in 2 weeks and then pass the clean policies at that time.
I work with you and we can take care of this. We're not stacking up. Let's do that because that'll make it easier. So let's do that. So I should rescind my motion because it's been
Yep.
moved and seconded. Okay, so I will do that. I rescind my motion. And
John, do you rescind your second?
I do.
And Vice President Pereira can now make a motion.
I don't know if we need a motion because
No.
we're asking.
You don't need a motion?
No.
We're asking for revisions to this, it's just this, but then hopefully
Thank you.
next time we'll get it passed.
They're way ahead.
Also, the revision will also include the 10K cap on the restoration.
Right. Easy enough.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Sorry about that.
I probably suggested that because I'm not really sure I followed everybody.
I thought we were gonna put all this and finish it up. Okay, that's fine. That's our cost share program. Permit 2025-07. Variance request, the Amarillo residential landscape. Lake Elmo. Okay. John, could you please lead us in that?
Mr. President, I'm going to turn it over to Josh Phillips. He was the primary reviewer of the permit application and variance request.
Yeah, President Marchand and managers included in the packet is a permit application review memo, as well as a variance request and the variance worksheet for you to work through.
The conformance with rules, because the way I read the variance request, it was just for removal of the posts.
Yes,
So everything else in the permit is in conformance with rules.
yes, the variance request is for a variance from the floodplain policies for minimum floor elevations that are outlined in that section of the memo here. So yes.
Okay, all right.
I'd like to hear from the landowners if they're willing to.
Yeah, hello, everyone. My name is Ben Amstor. I bought this house last spring. Obviously, it has really easy features. If you see the pictures, you can tell that there's old concrete posts. Those posts, it's come to my knowledge now after a year that those posts were built to hold a flood wall. At the same time, the retaining wall was put in. I'm not sure if you received the email from the DNR, from Dan Scollin at the DNR. And so the reason we asked for the variance is because our assumption was that the retaining wall has been undermined somewhat by First of all, the fact that they're 39 years old, and secondly, the weight boats don't really help the situation. But the DNR directly told us that the water levels in Lake Elmo since 2022 have been lower than the ordinary high water level, and that they do not recommend rebuilding the retaining wall due to Minnesota Rule 6115-0211, and that retaining walls in general are not consistent with the goals of the DNR. Simultaneously, I was asked to rebuild the flood wall, which is what, first of all, I didn't take flood wall down. It's been down for 15 years.
If I may interrupt you, who suggested or asked you?
Of our engineering during the review process, and I understand why. It's because it was there before, and the house was built in 1948. My next door neighbor built it with his father, so I kind of know the history to it. This house, it used to be the boat launch for Lake Elmo that the family ran. They lived in my house, and then the house that's right next to me, that's lower than my house and doesn't currently have a flood wall, was the old rental area where they would rent the wooden boats that people would take out on Lake Elmo in the 40s, 50s, 60s until the reserve was put in.
Okay.
So my dilemma is obviously that on one end, I'm being told by the DNR that I shouldn't rebuild the retaining wall because there's no need for it. And I have that email. If any of you would like to read it, I'm more than happy to present it to you. So what we're proposing is to cut the posts off so that they're hideous. And then just put a new paver patio simultaneously. Right now, there used to be a shed next to this area. So there's several staircase slabs that are there. There's a concrete slab on grade foundation where this shed used to sit. All those, the old staircase, it's really weird. There was wood stairs there. So the staircase isn't like a typical staircase. It actually steps up in the middle of it and then goes back down. I raised 2 grandkids. I have full custody of them. So they trip and they fall over all these things. So we're proposing actually increasing the permeable area by putting sand. There's already a sand beach adjacent to it. We would just extend that, remove those old staircase vanities, remove that slab, cut those posts flush, and then I just wanted to have a glass railing, which if you can see in the pictures of my house, there's the same rail that's already on the rooftop deck. So I feel like, I understand completely the position that the house is in a weird location, but it's been there for 77 years. We've endured 5 of the highest water years on record, and the house hasn't flooded. It's not my primary residence. There is no mortgage holder, so there's no bank at jeopardy. So that I would ask for the variance, and I truly believe the whole lake would look better if there wasn't a house with 10 columns sticking out 4 feet in the air. And I'm willing to, the DNR would like me to not replace the retaining wall, which was put in at the same time. In exchange, they want me to put riprap in. Original design was for riprap and a retaining wall anyway. So I have no qualms at all or problems with doing the riprap. But it would make no sense for me to not put a retaining wall on and put riprap in and then build a flood wall. It seems like it's a direct contradiction of the Minnesota DNR statute. Hence the reason for the variance request.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Are the posts remaining from the previous flood wall?
Yeah, they just stick up. If anybody would like to see a picture.
They're wood, right?
No, they're concrete.
Oh, they're concrete, okay.
Yeah, here's a picture of what I'm.
The stop block
We
too.
got good
Wood.
photos here
Yeah.
too.
Okay, well, they sure.
Or that's
And this is the letter from the DNR. If anybody would like to see it.
Yeah. And Fresco.
I saw.
Okay, yeah.
I'm Jody to that. I'm with the
She's our designer.
And we're not proposing to remove the posts completely, like, we just want to cut them so they're flush with the existing patio, and we're not removing the existing patio. We will overlay it with a nicer, paver. It would just be overlaid right on. So we're not really removing that existing, structure, so to speak.
Yep.
But we are removing all this other concrete that was poured over the years that doesn't have a reason.
So you do want to remove, that's what I was, ascertaining about what exactly you want to do. I'm
Yeah,
a
it's
little,
just,
a little befuddled. And so,
right,
again, you want to remove the concrete.
the concrete, so
Yeah,
the existing concrete patio is going to remain. It's
Okay.
existing. The pillars, the columns, those large, columns that were holding the wood in apparently for the flood walls, those would just be cut. They go deeper, much deeper, but they would be cut flush with the patio instead of sticking up.
And then I can show you, this
Yeah.
plan right here helps see, but basically everything this way is concrete right now.
right,
This is all sand. We would just extend that sand and remove, there's an old staircase here that goes nowhere, because there's no staircase there. And
right.
then this is the concrete pad. There used to be looks like a shed was there, a metal shed at one time. So we would just extend, this is a shared heat between my neighbor and I, we have a very tight lot. We would just extend that beach up to where the columns were flood, where, where the existing, this is where the existing patio is now. So if we get a paver overlay, and then all the concrete that goes from this edge of the staircase over would be
So,
removed.
okay, so then my question would be to our engineering staff. So you remove the concrete, that, of course, let's say,
The concrete right now is this, is in this area.
affect our easement on there.
So this is the sand beach.
Yes.
So what's it gonna
So
do?
that was extend.
So
It just extends.
Before you go there,
Yeah,
I want to just
That's the
confirm
picture.
what I'm pretty sure I've heard
yeah,
is that the house is in the 100-year flood. So
Yeah.
it would be impacted by a 100-year flood.
Well, my neighbor's house is lower than mine, yeah, it's no flood on it.
Yeah,
So, Mr. President, if I can maybe give a little bit of background after doing some research. Valley Branch Watershed District, as you know, constructed Project 1007 in 1987, 1988. And after Project 1007, it's determined that not all the homes were protected from flooding. Because the watershed district was only able to create the outlet so large and at such an elevation. So the board at that time offered a floodproofing residual program to all of the homes that still remained below the 100-year flood elevation of the lakes along Project 1007.
right.
The homeowner of this parcel took advantage of that program. That program was set so that the landowner would hire their own contractor and design something that would provide flood protection to the home. And then Valley Branch Watershed District would reimburse them. So that's what happened. Valley Branch inspected the flood wall after it's constructed in 1989 and reimbursed the property owner at that time $25,000 thereabouts, because it provided protection against flooding from Lake Elmo. Not all the property owners that were low participated in that program, but this property owner did.
And we were granted an easement, correct?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Just one question. So if that landowner back after Project 1007 had not taken advantage of that and this flood wall was never built, would we, there's no work being done to the home. The home's not being improved, within the 100 years. It's just this work down by the lake shore. Would we be having this discussion at all if that flood wall had never been constructed in the first place?
I guess I advise the managers to hear what Attorney Torset has.
Do you want me to respond to that, or do any managers have any questions before I chime in? Okay, so here's what I have, and I've spent a lot of time reviewing this and examining what analysis to have, because it's murky. This is not clear cut. So I'm just gonna start out with that. But ultimately, what I ended up looking at was the variance review criteria. Sorry, I'm frog in my throat, that the managers have to review. And if you go in your packet and you go to the worksheet, the first question is there a unique physical condition of the land or water involved that may result in extraordinary and unnecessary hardship from strict compliance of the Valley Branch rules? The managers ultimately have to make a decision on what that is. But I started thinking, what's the hardship, right? And in my opinion, the hardship is the proximity to the water being below the 100-year flood elevation. That wasn't caused by the property owner. But Valley Branch has mitigated that hardship, right? By doing the flood wall. And here's my understanding, those concrete barriers are there. And the wood slats are not there, but you could put wood slats in if there was flooding and it could act as a flood wall. So it's not that it's a completely defunct
It's,
infrastructure.
I own a fire protection contracting company, so I feel like I have very familiar with flooding and water. Quite frankly, it never would have worked. The water would just go around the flood wall and come right back through the basement. And anybody who wants to look at it would see that. Anybody with common sense would see that the water would just go around the flood wall and come right in. I can't say as to what it looked like in 1989, but
I have pictures, actually, yeah.
if you put it, I guarantee you if this lake flooded and it came into my unfinished basement, which is what is at risk, the water is gonna come into that house.
It would go right around the concrete.
Exactly.
Yeah, we're
So I
trying
feel like this was something that was done to make a homeowner happy in 1989 because he was concerned, he or she was concerned. But like I said, I own a sprinkler contracting company, so trust me, I've seen a lot of floods.
I bet.
And water goes where water wants to go. And to think that this wall would have stopped that house from flooding, I feel like this was something, would it have maybe stopped some of the water? Absolutely 100%. But there's no way this house wouldn't flood if I put 6x6 timbers back in.
So I'm just gonna continue real quickly.
Yeah,
So my understanding from our engineering, the engineers for the district, is that you could buy the wood slats and maybe they need to chime in on it because I'm not an engineer, nor do I own any company that deals with water, but that could have some flood mitigation elements. So continuing in my analysis, is there a hardship? Yes. Did Valley Branch did mitigate that, and now the request is to undo that mitigation and put that hardship back, put the house back at risk of the hardship of the flooding. So, and then here's my concern, and I do understand you are willing to accept the risk of flooding, because if you look at your packets, managers, you're gonna see the house, the one with the red dot. And 891 is a 100-year flood elevation. It's in the house. It's not even, so, and then Valley Branch does have an easement from 892 toward the lake, which again is kind of the middle of the house toward the lake. And that was put in place when the flood wall was put into place, and that mitigation. I do have a concern that the Amthor family may not own this property time immemorial. And the district actually has had experience where property owners come back and say, you permitted this, we are now flooding, you mitigate and pay us. That's a liability for the district, and I do have concern about that. So.
But if right now, if the variance isn't granted and I don't rebuild a flood wall that I never took down, I feel like the counter argument to this is that if we were to build a flood wall, would directly put me in violation of the DNR order. So because it says specifically in that email that the DNR does not want to see retaining walls or walls.
okay, Mr.
Just
Thank you.
Sorry, not to be argumentative.
No, you're not. We're trying to figure this out.
We have two regulatory bodies working on this. We have us and we have the DNR. Just gonna ask our engineer if they feel that the advice from the DNR is sound.
Okay.
President Sherman and Andrew Prayer, the DNR's has jurisdiction up to the ordinary high water level. And so the proposed plan that has been submitted included both a flood wall up above that and then the retaining wall closer to the shoreline. I believe the DNR's guidance was for that retaining wall closer to the shoreline that appeared to extend into that ordinary high water level. The original submittal that we got, it wasn't entirely clear what the elevations were on that. But I think the DNR's concern is primarily with there's the flood wall and then there's a closer retaining wall. They had issues with that closer retaining wall and wanted to see more of a riprap armoring feature in place. So from my perspective, the flood wall being where it is and then the retaining wall close to the shoreline are two separate issues.
Okay.
One of the things with variances is there, is there another way to deal with the situation? And I'm not a expert or an engineer
Right.
either. But I wonder if there's some way to address the issue that I think is most prominent for you, which is, these are ugly posts sticking up.
It's also a
in the yard.
safety issue, quite frankly, because my grandkids are,
Mhm.
they're playing around, there's a drop off there. I would like to put on the lake side, I would like to have a nice glass railing.
Yeah.
I didn't buy, first of all, I didn't buy the house.
No, we get that. We understand. I don't mean to interrupt you.
No, no
But,
problem. I'm just trying to.
But one point you made that I observed was that you said that regardless of what was done up front, that if water wants to come in, it's going to. And you have neighbors that also have homes that are below that
Yes,
elevation, the 100-year elevation. So with that, I agree. And so if I'm understanding
Well,
our treasurer,
yeah.
then is there something we can do that isn't gonna, that's going to add and not necessarily make changes? Because it seems that the posts that are up high are, if you put wood in, they're still gonna allow water through, aren't they? So the water comes up.
Well,
Does that make sense?
yeah,
It does to
but,
me.
I guess that one thing, I wonder if there's not a way to, you sure cut them off, at the surface and as part of the design that you're proposing, to include something that would replace that function with a removable kind of function or a berm of some sort, so I don't know what it would be. Not necessarily
To me,
riprap, but I don't know.
if I thought that house was truly gonna flood, whether that wood was there or not, I would buy some sandbags and, I mean, it's not like that. I mean, we're talking about an elevation that per the DNR's own word is roughly 6 feet above what they consider to be the ordinary high water level. Remember, there's the culvert, the horseshoe lake. So we're talking horseshoe and Lake Elmo would have to come
There's
up quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I feel like in that period of time, any homeowner, whether it was myself or my neighbor, what I would do is put some sandbags down, because I feel like that is something that's a proven, that's what they do in Fargo when it
Yeah,
floods.
the other concern that we have is that this variance, we have our policies in place and all that.
Yeah.
We have to be very, very careful with this because somebody will say, hey, we
Totally
did it for them. And so, I'm certainly not an engineer in any way, shape or form, but I'm trying to mull over my mind, what can be done to add to it that satisfies us and our easement and allows you to do some of the things that you want to do.
It would
Maybe not all
it
of
could be
them.
argued that we could put plywood against the glass railing, and in my mind, I don't know how that wouldn't be any different than the wood that was there with some concrete posts. I mean, that's to me that, you know, if it appeases the.
I'm not an engineer. I mean,
Right,
I would
He's doing
I
a
would be
job.
asking the engineer.
I'm trying to
Totally
figure it out.
understand,
Trying to
I
figure it out.
totally understand.
What
I
I'm
just don't know
thinking
what
is-
to say, because the truth is, it never would have worked in the first place. So I can't offer an alternative that, quite honestly, I'd be lying to you if I said I thought it would work. I don't know.
All right, if I may interrupt you again. What I'm leaning towards is, and this could potentially be an all-night discussion,
Right,
but it also seems that, again, if I got this right, that, we can figure something out with Bar Engineering, if possible, with your, landscape company, to come up with a solution that satisfies us as well as yours. And frankly, you know, I'm part of the team, but I'm trying to understand what the big deal is about those posts. It's not my house, it's not my, and I just, there are things that I don't see.
I don't know what you would do though, like, I don't quite understand how the posts offer any functionality. So to me, it's just an aesthetic issue on the post, because if we were to come up with a solution, how does saving the posts?
I thought we weren't trying to save the post. we're
Right,
trying
I'm not.
Yeah, we're trying to save the
The
concrete.
flood wall.
Yeah, you tear that up and then, you open up potentially a Pandora's box, at least from our
Well, I
perspective.
think it's a long-term liability issue, but simultaneously, I'm being held liable for a decision that was made in 1989.
Yeah, we knew
So
that.
That's the flip side of that discussion. I mean, as a homeowner, I think I'm the fourth homeowner since that gentleman in 1989. Is this an indefinite thing that will stay with this house for all future homeowners for 100 years? I mean, that's the problem.
Okay, sir.
I'm wondering if this is a legal question, and it'd be a total screwball idea, but I wonder if there's some type of easement language that could be attached to the deed for this property that would release, because you understand our situation.
Totally understand. I completely understand. I've been sued many times for flooding, so you probably couldn't find a person that's been sued more than me for flooding in the state.
Legal language that can be attached to the deed of the property that would release the
The,
district from
any,
Good point.
whoever has the rights to an easement always has the rights to release, has the ability to release those rights. So I wouldn't recommend it, but if the managers are inclined to say,
Right.
this easement isn't something that we desire or want, and we want to vacate that easement, if that's what you're getting at, Manager Pereira, that is something that the district has authority to do. I would not advise that, but you do have that right.
Well, what I'm thinking of is something that would release us from future liability if he were to sell the house.
Yeah.
Because this,
We went ahead and, we went
yeah,
ahead
this,
and allowed,
this,
let me finish.
yeah.
We went ahead and granted the easement, the concrete post came down, which removed the possibility from putting that flood wall back. And he sells the house in the future, somebody buys the house, they flood, and they come back to us and they put it on us. Is there legal language we could construct that you would accept as an addition to the deed of that property, or however it will be done, that would release us from that liability?
I'm willing to, I stated that in the variance that I would release.
And I have thought of that prospect, but I really can't think of anything that would bind a future homeowner to release of liability. I mean, if you think about buying a home yourself that says there's this known risk and you won't have any liability against another person or entity. I don't know how well that's gonna stand up in court in the future. I mean, if it's permitted, government entity is permitting a known risk.
I would argue that if you're buying a house on 15 feet off a body of water, there should be some level of personal responsibility that you would have to know that would flood. mean,
That's,
people are buying.
that's common sense.
People are buying
That's common
houses in
sense.
New Orleans and Katrina came through and 2/3 of that city is under the flood level.
But you know
Like
that
my house.
our litigious society has
I
changed.
totally understand, but in
Yeah.
some way, there's
You know
gonna
all
be a
this.
gulf.
Okay,
So my understanding,
Yeah.
from speaking with Engineer Phillips, is that there may be other flood mitigation possibilities that don't require cement blocks, so.
There certainly could be.
Are you aware of any?
I know that BAR has worked on other projects where there are removable posts that get installed in advance of flood events. I have not personally worked on them.
okay.
I'm more than open to purchasing removable posts and storing them in my basement in the event of a flood. I would be more than willing to buy a removable post and throw it up. Because to me, that's really a fancy way of saying sandbag. But a post, what, it doesn't matter. I mean, it's water, right? So if you are offering me an alternative that BAR is saying is removable posts and I can put them up in the event of a flood, I'm very open to that.
Aluminum like on the weirs. Holy cow. Go ahead, sir, because I think I have. Go ahead.
I think to some extent, our role is to review what was submitted.
Right.
And we have reviewed what was submitted and provided our summary of that in the memo. I don't think our role would be to design a different alternative for them. If this permit applicant wishes to have a different design
That-
done, that could be done and we
That's-
could react and review for that.
Yes, sir, that's his responsibility. He's getting help, and then we do provide that. I don't want to just say, no, that's it, because before all this happened, that was my mentality. I was gonna say, you talk to our attorney, you're done. But we're learning more about this, that we're not aware of, and so we're trying to come up with a solution.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, of course. So my bottom line, without what the other managers have to say, is that we're gonna table this. Think about this. You're gonna go back to the drawing board, if you're okay with that. You're gonna consult with BAR, that's on our dime, our taxpayer dime. And then maybe we can come up with something that's gonna work. And then we don't have this trouble. We might not even need a variance. Yes, ma'am.
I think Bill had something, but
Oh, yes, sir.
you couldn't really see him, so I'm.
No.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Check him out
Oh,
for you.
Please, chime in.
Okay, so my understanding of the history then is when we did our project, some people took advantage of the flood mitigation technology that was available at the time, others did
Right.
not. Whoever he purchased the property from did take advantage of it, but others didn't. He's basically putting himself in the place of the people who didn't take advantage of it in the first place, right? Our problem is with is only really with the liability of that we might face if it does flood from future landowner. Am I reading that correctly?
Yeah,
Well, and there's some concern that the house is below the 100-year flood elevation, and I know they're not proposing anything to do with the house. But it does correlate with that rule, right? So that there is concern because that rule isn't in compliance. The flood wall protects that.
But
Is
what
that
about the
mitigating
other
that?
neighbors who never took advantage of it in the first place? I mean,
Yeah.
and are below the flood elevation.
True, but that's not the fact pattern before,
and
before the manager.
interestingly enough, this ties into what's happening now because we've got a program to purchase homes that are beneath the 100-year elevation.
Mhm.
And we're gonna be discussing a situation that's not Legion Pond and a couple of others. And now maybe this stuff at Lake Elmo's cropped up and who knows, they might be on the list. We'll buy your house. I'm kidding. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
That's why
So I
I'm,
get what you're saying,
yeah.
but the issue before the managers tonight isn't one of those other houses. It's this one.
Mhm.
Yeah, of course. What do you think?
Can I ask a question?
Uh,
I'm just curious, when was that? Was that statue put in place before this house was built?
The
The-
statute?
Yeah, like that you're not allowed to build. If you had a new home going in, they would never allow building it below.
Right.
You know,
Mhm.
was that around at that time frame?
If the house was built in 1948, no, because Valley Branch didn't
So-
exist.
Something you're kind of in that,
We have very little back then.
yeah.
Yeah, so changes have been made. So if the managers have nothing else at this point, I would like to make a motion at my own peril that we table this and we continue this discussion. Forgive me, folks, that we square this away and see if we can come up with some solutions and bring it back before us so we can finalize it.
And just so we're clear, the solutions have to be approved by BAR or the solutions?
They don't have to be approved by BAR. BAR is recommending,
Just curious. I just want to make sure
yeah, we're the ones that have to approve it.
We're certainly gonna listen to what they have to
Just
say.
clarification. And are we directing our engineer to assist with the development of an
No.
alternative? No.
No, they're only serving as in an advisory role. Is that correct?
I guess it is up to you ultimately, but that is our typical process.
So our suggestion is we're asking the permittee to come up with an alternative for something that's easily replaceable for the concrete post.
Apparently,
Flood protection
flood protection,
alternative,
a flood protection alternative.
whatever, you
correct.
know, wide open,
Okay,
how you do.
Can you handle that?
Really not, but I'll try. I
You
mean,
can
I don't,
try.
I honestly don't know
Yeah.
if there is something, but I definitely think that I'm being held accountable for a decision for homeowners prior.
We get it.
And I realize it's not your fault, but obviously you can understand my
Yeah.
frustration.
I feel your pain.
Yeah, well, everybody on Lake Elmo and they're gonna call us for another 20 years, this is what's gonna come down to, because I'm not gonna have $100,000 for a imaginary.
Yes, sir.
I just have a question that might lead for next week's or next meeting's discussion. How would we feel, I mean, Mr. Amster has already mentioned that if it's flooding, he'd put up sandbag wall.
Right.
I mean, how would we react to it if he came back at our next meeting and said, I've made provisions, I've got a stack of empty sandbags, and poly, and I'm ready to fill
I have the sand right there.
those with sand. And build a sandbag wall in the event of a flood. How would we deal with that or react to it? Because I'm just saying that, 'cause that's a very real option.
Of course,
Possibly.
it's,
I'd be willing to tell you right now,
It's a
buy
solution.
1,000 sandbags right now as part of the condition for this variance. and
It's-
that-
it's a solution. And that's why I want to table this so that we can go back and figure something out so that we're not in violation. We can maintain our integrity.
Okay.
You can, personally, me, this, I don't want to get in trouble for this, but I chop those suckers down anyway. I blow them up. Sorry.
Mr. President, the only reason for my question was, are we going to say no to anything other than a hard structural solution? Or something like this that could be moved in on a, temporary basis? I just want Mr. Amber to have some feel for how we would react to that. And
A question related to that would be, what does that do to our liability?
Right.
If in
When-
the event of a flood or flood threatened and action isn't taken, you sound like you
When-
are gonna take that action, but if the next owner or somebody else,
When we're approached.
do we still then have liability at that point?
Okay.
If somebody didn't take action?
Yes, sir. When we're approached with a solution, we can make that decision, but we'll figure something out. You know, it's not just, it's gotta be like this. We're brainstorming here. We're trying to help you. We don't want your house to flood.
I totally appreciate that. My one concern is if I come up with a solution, it requires physical effort. As the attorney, are you gonna reject that solution based on the premise that a future homeowner may not physically be able to do the same thing that I would? Because if that's the case, I'm basically in a,
You're not in a pickle. Hold on.
okay,
We have the ultimate authority.
Okay.
She can give us her recommendations and we follow her.
okay.
So we can make that determination. She could say, I told you so, or something or other. I'm just.
I just want to make sure I'm going down the right path, yes. So, okay,
You are. We're trying to come up with a solution.
all right, thank you.
There's a
So-
motion on the floor, but no second.
Do I have a second or do I need to repeat my motion?
The motion was to table the discussion and review of the permit until the next meeting.
Second that.
Thank you, sir. It's been moved and seconded.
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Okay,
Thank you. Thank you.
get back on it, right?
Do my best.
Thank you.
Thanks for
We
your time.
appreciate that.
Appreciate you.
And I don't think we can do the run up there.
Oh, we
You could paint them.
Did you
Thank you,
give us my
Maureen.
historical picture?
I messed it down.
I think you gave it to Don. I think Don just gave it to him.
Yeah, please
Start. Picture.
I call Brady.
But that was interesting. The email that was sent out, I thought it would be helpful. in discussion.
All right. Well, Secretary John is using the facilities, but I think we can continue, right?
Yep.
Okay. So, here's a fun one. The permit 2025-08 and variance request Rios de Agua Viva Church. So rivers of water for the live church. That's my interpretation.
This one's me again.
I can read the menu at Mexican restaurants. Okay, whatever.
Only if they have pictures.
The pictures always help. What's that? Okay. Lead us into this, sir.
Sure, President Shaman Managers, included in your packet is another review memo and variance request and worksheet for the reference permit. This is a site that was previously permitted and approved by the managers. That permit has expired and they have resubmitted with a slightly modified design, very similar to what was approved previously. This permit applicant also requested a variance previously for the same issue that was approved at the time. The project is for the most part in compliance with the district's rules, but they are asking for a variance specifically for the volume reduction requirement. In a short summary is that this permit applicant is unable to provide volume reduction at all location where runoff leaves the site, which is one of the rules. They are providing the full required volume of abstraction, but are not able to meet it in a certain direction where the runoff leaves. They are able to provide rate control, so matching existing rates, but not provide that volume. The constraints that they have are due to some slow infiltrating soils, groundwater contamination, and high water table issues.
Okay. How close are they?
They're meeting the full volume for the site, just not in a certain direction. They're not providing any volume reduction in that direction.
Yes, sir.
The two directions for the logos, one's got a little extra and the other one we're doing better than required. The one where there's the direction where there's a little extra, what's there? Is that creating a problem of any sort?
Right.
Both discharge directions ultimately end up in Raleigh Creek. One is primarily within a storm sewer that directly discharges into Catalin Park. The other one is routed a longer flow path along 694 and then ultimately meets up in the same location. From our review perspective, I don't have concerns with either of those discharges with in terms of, they're matching the rate control. And the additional volume, I don't see as a significant concern to the downstream receiving water body.
Thank you.
That's my question. I had the same one. Yeah.
Yeah, so let me pursue this. So tell me exactly why they require a variance.
President Marchand,
I know you pointed that out. Do it again
yeah,
in more detail.
the district's rules are very specific that you need to match the existing discharge rates in every direction where you have water leaving your site. So they have a little bit of a unique site up on a hill where water leaves in 3 different directions from their site. They also need to provide volume reduction or infiltration or abstraction in all 3 directions where they'd be discharging. 2 of the directions ultimately, actually, I think all 3 directions come back together in Raleigh Creek, but the 2 in question, they meet up. But based on the constraints, they tried to look at putting some sort of a treatment facility in the direction that goes directly north. And there are not soils in that area of the site that are conducive to infiltration. There's also some contamination and such. They're essentially providing that full volume by over treating the other area that drains off site. But they just can't provide it at that one discharge point.
Okay, so the next one here is, do we need to look at our variance worksheet and get through this? Because it looks like, again, it might be befuddlement today that it seems like they come up with some substantial answers for their requirement.
Before you
Yes,
go
sir.
there, just a comment on the report itself and the suggested site-specific conditions.
Yeah.
Condition number 3, I thought that was nice to see something coming into it that talks about the snow storage issues and
Sure.
chloride type stuff. So a little more expansive. And I appreciate that. Thanks.
Yeah. But when I overlooked that, okay, thank you. We don't go for that snow storage stuff, right? Okay. So. So we start in. It's infeasible, correct? But there's no other way that they can get around this.
I had some conversations with the permit applicant's engineer, who is on the call, I believe, as well. They looked at a few alternatives, including trying to do some reuse on the site, and were not able to find a solution to meet the requirement for the volume leaving in that specific discharge direction.
What's the gentleman's name again?
Robbie Latta?
Robbie, is it okay? Robbie,
Good evening, all.
come in.
I'm sorry. Good evening, all.
It's a great connection.
Got like feedback, and
Yeah.
Robbie, you're coming in very staticky. We're not able to hear you.
Okay, well, I can hear you all. You can't hear me?
It's teacher.
Yeah, we can hear you making noise, but it's all static. Sorry.
oh, we got a fast food drive up. They never get it right. Said I ordered chicken, not beef. Yes, sir.
I would volunteer to go through the variance worksheet if you'd like.
Please.
Take us through that.
Yes, sir. Please do.
Question 1, is there a unique physical condition of the land or water involved that may result in extraordinary or an unnecessary hardship from strict compliance to Valley Branch Watershed District rules? My opinion is yes on that one.
Okay.
I want to hear from everybody.
I would
else.
agree.
Can't hear from the gentleman, but
Mhm. Yeah.
you can help us with that, John.
Our end of the table, folks. In agreement?
Yeah.
So we, that one, yes.
Yep. Very good.
Is the landowner's problem due to circumstances unique to the property, not caused by the land? Yeah,
Yes.
I would say yes.
Yes.
What effect would granting the requested variance have on the entire Valley Branch watershed district? And I guess I would offer nothing.
It sounds like we still meet the,
You'll still meet our rules.
Yeah.
He does.
So, overall,
See a change.
other than having it not, not in the northern direction, or in all directions.
Everybody okay?
Yeah,
For what effect would granting the requested variance have on Valley Branch watershed district, on the Valley Branch watershed district plan? Anybody have any thoughts on that?
doesn't seem to me that there would be any effect. No. Counselor? Scaros?
No,
No?
it's your determination. So, I mean, if there isn't,
I mean, I suppose one could argue that by having a variance, it sets a precedent that would eventually deter the goals of the plan, but it seems, in this case, fairly far.
Right.
I think that's some of why we're here, is to look at special circumstances like this.
Yeah.
And that's.
Okay,
Can you hear us, Robbie?
so move
I
on to
can-
question.
I can hear you fine.
It's in the affirmative. Mr. Number 5, please.
Will the landowner's proposed property use alter the essential character of the locality?
No. Would it? No. How?
I don't see a concern with that one.
Who we went on?
No.
So everybody's okay checking that one? No?
Yeah. Excellent.
Has the application submitted provided sufficient documentation regarding the exceptional conditions or peculiar difficulties claimed?
Yes.
I would say yes.
Indeed. Josh?
I would concur.
And the resulting impacts from approval of the variance. I would say it's been documented.
And then some. Yeah.
So
With that said, if you gentlemen have nothing and
Can you hear me?
team has nothing in particular.
no, just a point of protocol.
Yeah.
I think first, what you probably want to have two separate motions. One is to approve the permit and the second is first is to approve the variance, the second would be to approve the permit with the variance conditions.
Okay, very good. I don't understand that technicality, but I'm not gonna argue with that.
Yeah, and you're not imposing any requirements, but if you were, you would want the permit to be subject to those,
Okay,
right?
Mhm.
thank you. Sir, would you like to make?
I'll make a motion that we approve the variance that has been requested for permit number 2025-07.
I would second my motion.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
I think this is
Front
08.
page says 08.
Yeah, I just wanna, that's a Scrivener's error, I will.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm, you know what, I'm looking at the variance sheet from the previous one.
Whoa.
So you're right, 08. I almost really screwed up there, big time. Pardon me, 08.
And who did the second? I'm sorry. I didn't get that.
I seconded it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And aye.
It's unanimous. It is approved.
Thanks.
Now. So discussion. So, one more.
Oh, I'll make a motion that we approve permit 2025-08 with the addition of the variance.
I will second that motion. It's been moved and seconded.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. It is approved. Did you hear that, Robbie?
He says, thank you.
Okay. Thank him for his time, please. Okay, thank you, Counselor. All right. Now, our next item is the 3M PFAS or PFAS Settlement Priority 2 Enhanced Natural Resources Grant, number 4. Mr. Engineer, please start us on this. I have an idea of what I'd like to do, but we want to hear what's happening.
Sure. Mr. President Managers, you just got this up at the last meeting and asked that each manager send me his top 5 projects, either from the list that was included in the memo from the last meeting or some new ones. And so I distributed an updated memo with a tally of all the managers' votes. And there is some consistency for some of the proposed projects, and then there's a couple that only received 1 vote. Question tonight would be whether the managers want to submit a letter of intent to the state for applying for a grant, and if so, for which projects or project.
Okay, do the managers have any ideas?
I wasn't here for the last meeting, but just a question on your understanding, which grants are most likely to be granted under that program?
President John, Manager Armstrong, I don't know, but the memo from the last meeting was attached to the packet that went out on Friday, and they do list the goals of their grant program. And so the goals are to restore, protect, enhance aquatic and terrestrial resources, wildlife and habitats. That's 1. Second is to increase understanding of fish tissue contamination, improve communication about PFAS-based fish consumption advisories, identify enhanced alternative non-contaminated fishing areas. And the third is to improve and enhance outdoor recreational activities. So I suspect that projects that do those things would score the best. Typically also with grants, projects that involve multiple partners also score well.
Okay. So of those 5 top choices, whether you gentlemen are aware or not, which one is the most or the likeliest to succeed? And we can introduce that with a letter of intent, if that would be included in it.
Well,
Yes,
from my impression from the discussion last time is that having a shotgun approach of having multiple projects submitted probably makes a lot of sense for this. I would tend to want to go a little more liberal than conservative in terms of how many we do, assuming that the letter of intent is relatively straightforward.
there's
in
only
terms of
one,
product.
or can we have multiple?
You could have 1,000 if you wanted.
What?
Thousands of.
He's right, there's a whole lot of money out there.
So does a grant application then have to be for everyone that we identify in our letter of intent? Are they going to then request some sort of application for each one?
How I understand it is you submit a letter of intent, and included in the packet is what that letter of intent is. So it's the basic information of contact information, other collaborating organizations, and then a project summary and a cost. From that, I suspect that they would do some sort of scoring and say, we don't like that project, or yeah, maybe we like that project, submit a full application.
Just a question for John. Sounds like you have a feel for how much work an application can be just on one project. Like, how does it compare to like a CPL application? They're gonna be lighter than that? I mean, we don't want to. I agree completely with not putting all of our eggs in one basket, but there's a workload here.
Well, but there's a kind of 2-stage thing. One is the first stage of, I get the impression that the letter of intent is relatively straightforward.
Sure.
And then when they come back with, if they say, oh yeah, all the ones that you submitted, we want you to, submit a full application. We also then have the choice of deciding, well, do we really want to do that? And we might have more information out of the process of, hearing how they responded to the letter of intent. And then at that point, we can say, okay, looks like, several of these are ones that we want to move forward on. Or they only picked one of them, all the ones we submitted that they thought is worthwhile. Let them provide some additional information in that second, in the response to the first round. Is my inclination,
I agree with you, Rick.
okay?
Yes, sir.
So given that, would it be a lot to just choose the 7 3s and 2s maybe?
Yeah.
That would be what my thinking
And
would
the
be.
four.
That's what I was thinking, yeah, let's submit the top 7.
Yeah. Big time. Direction.
Yes, we'll do that.
That's the
Thank you.
direction. Thank you, sir. That is beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Rick.
Yeah.
Yeah, appreciate that. Okay. Okay. Number 5, Valley Branch Watershed District landlocked basin flood mitigation comprehensive planning study. Update on potential voluntary acquisitions. This is about the houses on Legion Pond and a couple of others. So we're talking about 4 structures, 2 more, and what we're going to do with them. Correct?
Correct, Mr. President. There's a memo in your packet, and table 1 on the second page of the memo says basically what you just said, that there are 4 homes on Legion Pond, 1 on Cloudwater Pond that the managers have already addressed, and 1 at Neem Park Pond. And those are have been identified at high risk of flooding. Jen Kaler and I have met with those property owners, and they all seem responsive and interested in the manager's policy for voluntary acquisition at landlocked basins. One of them, Jen just spoke with today. It's the rental property on Legion Pond. If you remember that one, we had some difficulty contacting them.
Oh, yeah.
But we finally communicated with them today, and he basically said he'd be willing to sell Valley Branch the property tomorrow. So not quite that easy. Of course, you have to do the appraisal and all that, but sounds like a pretty willing landowner. The other ones that we spoke with haven't quite determined when they'd like to move, but they're all interested and thankful that there is an entity out there that would be willing to purchase their home when they do want to move. So the suggested next steps would be, if the managers feel comfortable in possibly purchasing these homes, to communicate back with the property owners with the manager's voluntary acquisition policy. And that's included in the packet. And there's also a draft letter to the property owners in the packet.
We've done that before. It seems like the reasonable thing to do, and we're just directing you on this, correct?
And Jen and I did meet with the city of Lake Elmo to talk about, because if you recall up at Sunnybrook Lake, when the managers purchased the parcels up there, you directed us and we applied and we received a DNR flood hazard reduction grant that would pay for the removal of the properties. But the managers didn't use that grant because one of the conditions of the grant is that if you use the money, it's got to stay in public ownership forever. And the managers didn't want to be in the business of owning land and having to deal with complaints of dandelions, trash, what have you. So we met with the city of Lake Elmo here because there's 4 homes right in the row on Legion Avenue.
Right.
And maybe the city might want to do a park there or something. And so the city staff, they, first of all, they didn't say anything negative about Valley Branch possibly purchasing these properties. So that was a good thing. We met with the community development, director and a senior planner there, I think another planner. They were gonna go back to talk with their other staff, especially the public works director, because if the city were to own the property in the future, they'd have to maintain it somehow. And so I think there's some discussion that they need to have on what the cost might be with that. So what I'm trying to say is if the city is willing to own the land in the future, then it would make sense to chase a DNR flood hazard mitigation grant. If the city does not want to own the land in the future and Valley Branch continues to not want to own land in the future, then it does not make sense to apply for a flood hazard mitigation grant. Yeah, but that can be decided after sending out the letter to the residents saying, now we're here and we have bond money. They don't need to know that we're supposed to spend it by November, but we have bond money to purchase their home if they like to sell it to the district. If they can work with legal counsel to either buy it now, like this one rental property, or do something like we did with the Lovett family, where purchase a large percentage of it now, give them a timeline of when they have to move out, and then pay the remainder of that when they do move out.
Some basic direction on this one, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yes, sir, by all means.
We'll do that. Thank
Follow
you.
through with all of them. Thank you, sir. And then obviously report, I suppose, as early as the next meeting if possible.
I suspect that we won't get any responses within 2 weeks, but we'll report when we do.
That's just fine.
Good.
Thank you, sir. Okay. And then fine. The Union Pacific Railroad to Lake Elmo. Manning Avenue. Explain this one, please.
Sure. Josh and I have had discussions with Washington County. Washington County is planning to do some temporary updates to Manning Avenue between 10th Street and the railroad. And they looked at various sites along that corridor to do stormwater management. The total project would be creating less than 1 acre of new impervious surface, but Valley Branch's trigger is 6,000 square feet of new impervious surface you have to provide stormwater management. The sites that they looked at aren't fantastic as far as stormwater management. They could maybe get them to work. But the Washington County's long-term plan is to redo the entire corridor. And when they do that, the BMPs that they've cited as potential concepts for these BMPs, they would be in the way, so they would be destroyed in the future project.
Right.
And so Josh and I had discussion with Washington County and its consultant about some different options. And one of those options might be that they work with Valley Branch Watershed District on some sort of cost share agreement to implement the BMP that Tyler spoke with you about, that the big inflow that Supervisor Schultz and former engineer Stemsky and Barr saw a couple of years ago. There's a big drainage way that comes through West Lincoln Township into Downs Lake, and talked about doing an iron enhanced sand filtration system at that location to improve the water quality of Downs Lake. And so we talked to Washington County about maybe doing some sort of cost share for that.
That was
So, like,
temporary, the iron.
That would be a permanent one.
Okay.
And then we also talked about creating some sort of MOU, a memorandum of understanding that knowing that there's a future project that's planned for this corridor that kind of delay in having them to do any stormwater management with this temporary project, and that they would be committed to do stormwater management in the future with a long-term project.
Simple enough to me.
Did I capture it correctly? Okay.
Any potential costs? I mean, partnering is gonna reduce our cost, and we certainly want to be involved.
Well, so Washington County would prefer the MOU that would not require them to do any stormwater management at this time. The partnering cost, we did some kind of back of the envelope cost
Right.
for the iron enhanced sand filtration system. And based on what kind of water quality treatment that would be required with this temporary project, it would be about a, $58,000 to $70,000 cost share from Washington County for this project.
How far out is the long-term project projected to be?
I can hit on that. So, it's not, at Washington County, we don't work, we do our 5-year CIP. So we don't, I guess, program outside of that. We don't have funding locked in. So, but we have created, geometric layout. It's very hot on our radar, I guess, to do that Manning 4-lane expansion, just with all the development going on there. It's just, we don't have the funding to get it in our CIP yet. So I guess I can't give a timeline outside of 5 years, but we've been doing work, I guess, and we have layouts that I provided to, I think, just far as well, yeah.
Very quickly, sir. So you're essentially gonna widen 15?
Correct, that's a long-term vision.
Yeah.
As part of this project, the pavement's just so bad out there now, we're just gonna rehab it and then do some safety corrections as then I guess, right.
Sounds all right to me. Okay,
So they have not submitted a formal permit application, I don't think. They're kind of waiting for an answer on this question tonight on whether it's that they, what direction they'd like to go, or what direction the board would
if the
like that.
managers agree, that sounds like a reasonable request of partnering, and then we'll handle the permit. Sounds like a win-win to me. Do we need a?
So, well, Mr. President, I guess I'm not clear. When you say
No.
partnering, are you saying that
The
you
MOU?
want them to go with MOU, or are you saying you want them to go with partial payment of the large iron hand sand filtration?
Ooh, I like the partial payment of the iron sand filter.
I wonder if there's some way to take some of the aspects of the second bullet and the partnering portion and put that into the MOU.
Can we do that? That sounds like the way to go.
That, yeah, I mean, I just assume save the taxpayers money and the, Washington County in terms of not,
Thank you.
not doing things now that are gonna be, not valuable later. Let's look at things long-term. But in doing that, I think it's worthwhile, also getting it clear that, there's some partnering expectations that come out of that.
Can we do that? Don't tell us we can do anything we want. Yeah. Hey, it's up to you. Yeah. Well, that's what we
Mr.
like to
President,
do.
I can work with legal counsel in Washington County to draft an MOU for you to review and make sure it captures
Yes, sir.
what
Thank
you
you.
like.
Mhm.
Counselor?
I like that approach.
Oh, you're good. Okay. So let's do that. We direct you, sir. Thank you, Rick. And that's our cause. And thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Are you done with this for the evening?
I think so. I'm gonna take off. Have a good night.
Have a safe ride.
Yep.
Okay, this one's gonna get real interesting. Valley Branch Watershed District branded apparel. Whoa, okay. Yeah. I'm all for it. My first thought is it comes out of our pockets unless we have some sort of fund or whatever the manager suggests. Again, my first thought is that we pay for it and I don't have a problem with that. I have some ideas, logos, things, nothing crazy. I like that Latin phrase that we used. Remember when we did the water bottles? Something like that, maybe smaller, whatever. And we could do okay, go ahead. There you go.
I'm gonna use an engineer, Hanson, of putting him with our shorts in there simply to.
Yeah, I told you.
Heavy camel.
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
And not Speedos, right?
No.
Oh my God. Yeah, don't worry. Think of something else. I think this is the thing to do. Rick, do you have any comments about our budgets or the proper use of taxpayer money?
Well, I think it'd be useful, first of all, to be clear about, what kind of public benefit does come out of that. I think some of it is, a little better recognition of us as an organization.
Without
that
doubt.
Has some impact on which kind of products. I'm not sure if the camo shorts would come up real high on the list.
It's not gonna end, yeah. Or in fact, one, that's fine.
And
Sir.
I was disappointed that we didn't have the runway with, people coming through.
You've got a runway. It's a table right there.
Oh, my God. Okay.
Minnesota Watershed's board just discussed this very thing, and they had examples of apparel from the company, and they allocated $100 per director on the board to choose what they would want, so.
If we feel good about, again, the proper use of taxpayer money, and this could be educational, it's advertising,
Could I get a cape?
Okay. Oh, you got it.
Underoos.
I knew it was gonna go like that.
I think we're one of the last remaining watershed districts that don't have logo wear.
Right.
Not to sound, too condescending.
No, he's right, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I guess the easiest thing to do, because we're working on this, whoever's responsible to provide us with, apparel ideas, that sort of stuff, and then we can make decisions. I don't know if that requires outside of the meeting or something, but yes, sir.
I was just gonna make a suggestion. I mean, I don't know what the procurement procedure would be or anything. We have a local company right in Stillwater. I use them for some of my farm stuff.
Okay.
And if, you've got the logo in the proper format, they can do either the sewn or the whatever. And I would just, personally, I would just like to see us do business as close to home as possible. I don't know if there's any other
I agree with
firms
that.
like that around here, but I think it's the Heritage Friary, I think that's,
West Lakeland did that.
yeah.
Win-win. I think a win-win, yes, sir.
So based on the discussion, I'll contact them for a product catalog and provide to the managers. Maybe they have a website that you could go to.
And please feel free to email the information to individual managers so that we can get better ideas and not have a two-hour discussion on it, because that could happen and you guys will tear me up some more, right? We're good? Thank you, sir. Okay. Confirming the floor, Senate. Confirming the calendar. Everything's good.
Everything's good.
Thank you, ladies. Okay. Jeff, are you still with us?
I am President Marchand. Can you hear me okay?
Jeff, the bees.
Would that work if
The
it plugged
bees, where's
in
the bees?
instead of?
They're in the house.
Made it really hard.
Jeff, we're having the same audio issues with you as we were, where we can hear that you're trying to talk, but we can't hear you. So unfortunately.
Wireless,
Yeah. Whatever. I wonder-
He's typing.
He's gonna have a lot of typing to do if he's gonna give his whole report.
He says he'll try next time.
Okay, thank you. We hope you feel better, Jeff.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Take care of that sore
It's
throat.
all awful. Thank you, it was a synthesizer. His voice is synthesized.
Sounds like, remember on Peanuts?
Oh,
when
yeah.
Joe-
Yeah.
little character
Yeah.
talk like
adult.
That's what it sounds like.
Holy moly. It's a three-ring circus now. Okay. Managers, the legislative event coming up in, March 21.
That's,
Is it March 21? Oh, no, the
that's,
one you
that's
just
item
ended.
2.
Okay, the one you just
Item
ended.
1 is, I think, simply a report from last week.
Yes, sir.
John and I, had, the event on the evening before was nice, and we got a good update from our consultant. Minnesota Watershed's hired Watershed's LGN, Evan and Jess, and, moving forward on chlorides. And then the next day, John and I met with Representative Isaiah Hill from Stillwater. His big district, it goes from like the high school way up to Forest Lake. So, Karen Kill and the Vice President of Browns Creek also attended with us, and as she often does, Karen took the hill by storm. She's a force, and they had way more area in their watershed with them, but it was fine. It was a nice visit. We got he's an English teacher at the high school. We got to update him on chlorides, and he was certainly sympathetic and listened. Seemed like a decent fellow. And then we met with the freshman representative, Wayne Johnson, a former county commissioner. He didn't recall chlorides from the visit we had with South Washington that I was invited to, so it was good that we did that follow-up.
Can I ask the nature of that decision? Was that brief? Pardon me? Was that brief? Choo-choo train?
Yeah, it was fairly brief. I mean, he came in and he sat down and we quickly went through something, but that was maybe 15 minutes.
Maybe tops 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So he was interested.
So what he stated, he goes, with regards to chlorides, he goes, as the Retailers Association and been approached about this. So I said, I don't know, but I will check. And so I sent his request to Kevin Mrazek at LGN. And he said, good suggestion. I know the lobbyist for the Retailers Association, and I will reach out to them. I haven't got back to Representative Johnson yet because I wanted to see if Kevin had interacted with that person and how that went. And after I get a report back to Kevin on that, I'll go ahead and give a report back to Representative Johnson and I'll come up with what John.
Thank you.
So,
Okay,
going through it.
but that was the extent of it. And I did see some of the emails, some of the representatives were busy, you know, they weren't able to meet.
And one more thing,
Yes, sir.
I gotta just dot some i's and cross some t's and I'll send it to Ed, to John for review. I did take the invitation and redrafted it to be appropriate for Commissioner Cox.
Oh, excellent.
Just to let her know that, welcome to the county board, and we would love to have an opportunity to meet you for a cup of coffee and talk to you about Valley Branch and what we do.
Proactive.
So I'll try
Very
to
good.
get that going fairly soon as well.
That was very good. We know that.
I'll work on for Commissioner Miller.
Oh,
Yeah, Rick, and I'll copy you in case you wanna do the
Yeah.
appropriate thing with Ramsey County.
Thank you.
we're here to serve. We'll be, I can certainly talk to us about many things. And know about who we are and what we do. Okay, very good. Now the second part. The delegates to the Watershed Special Meeting, that's in March 21st. Yeah,
Wade Park. And, I told Jen that we would get her the form after tonight.
okay.
So I will, after conversations with Ed today. But I think the primaries will be me and Ed. And I'll have John as an alternate.
But don't be surprised if you go. Right. Yeah, my schedule is.
Ed's gonna get approval from higher authorities.
Yeah, okay. The wizard, yeah.
I'll submit that to Jan tomorrow.
That's beautiful. Thank you, sir. Thank you, John.
And,
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna ask Jan if I can expense my stuff. with this public watershed system. But other delegates they're covering the cost of the meeting, the room, they're providing lunch, and we're getting some training from Louis Smith on the latest changes to open meeting law.
Good. Okay. Very helpful. All right, the next item, business meetings, we don't have anything else. Is Jeff retired? He's already gone to bed.
No, he's still online.
So, thank you, Jeff. Okay, will everybody be able to meet on the 13th of March and the 27th of March? We'll have a forum. How about you, Counselor? You look like you're gonna be somewhere.
I don't think I'm gonna be here on the 27th. I think I'm out,
Okay. You think,
but you'll get Attorney Kellum.
where you
I
go?
will be in Sault Ste. Marie, Canada. For the Upper Lake Committee meeting. at the Great Lakes Fish Committee.
Okay,
There's a special request. Snapper Control Director, and he wants me to give the opening presentation during the comment session.
really?
So it's a little bit of a higher level of contribution I need to make to that meeting. We can do one or two things, but I can provide the hotel I'm staying in, and I can connect in the evening.
It's convenient as long as we don't get that.
Is required for the posting, or I could just attend without going, whatever. It depends on whether I'm needed for the quorum. So,
I think we will. Mr. Bill, will you be in any other part of the world?
Hopefully, but I don't anticipate that right now.
Okay, all right.
Vice President Pierre, did you say the 13th or the 27th?
27.
27. Mr. Brock, same?
Yeah.
Good, very. On this continent? Yep. Okay, very good. And Rick,
Yeah, I'm planning on being here.
your continents are the most exotic of all.
I just go to Iowa.
Oh, man.
The comment session ends at 2 p.m. on Thursday. Sault Ste. Marie, and I don't think it's physically possible.
No,
No.
okay. And that was covered by the special meeting. We're gonna be available and, we'll figure that out toward the end. Probably by the 13th. So we have one more item. Motion to adjourn.
Second?
So moved and seconded.
Aye.
Hi. All right.
Aye.
I
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you, gentlemen.